What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here with the quartering, coming to you on a Saturday with a quick update on the Toys for Tots drive. If you're interested in that, I will leave a link in the description to the video where I described it. And I want to give a huge shout out to all of you that have helped bring us up to $7,581 already in just about one day. Huge ups to everyone who has decided to back Toys for Tots. I appreciate you. Details in the video, which will be linked in the description. Get on board. It's a great cause. So I want to talk about game journalists complaining that consumers have power, essentially. That Ubisoft backing out of the censorious changes to Rainbow Six due to customer backlash is a bad thing, a terrible thing, a frightening precedent. And I want to get into the article here real quick because I think it really encapsulates what I believe is kind of this game journalist attitude towards consumers. There's a general disdain or distrust or distaste for the gaming community at large whenever we band together and have a problem with something. They seem to be fine when we heap praise on things, but games journalists always seem to doubt our true intentions when we are upset or complain about something. And they also come from a place, in my experience, many have come from a disingenuous position, and James Batchelor here is a perfect example, published just a few days ago. Ubisoft's pandering to unreasonable players. Ubisoft's decision to reverse minor aesthetic changes in Rainbow Six Siege sets unwarranted and unnecessary precedent. So the TLDR of the first part of this article is this absolute brainlet talking about how, well, these are just insignificant changes. Now, we saw in Rainbow Six how they had to remove or change a few things to get into the Chinese market, meaning they couldn't have slot machines, for example, or they had to change the appearance of certain skulls or cover up this or cover up that, take blood off walls, some small things. And I believe that this guy, James Batchelor, I'm sure he will be, is willfully, purposely misrepresenting the backlash that Ubisoft received. See, he is talking about how it's just due to they're just minor cosmetic changes and nobody should care. He's purposely misrepresenting the game community who was upset over the changes, not because of what they were, but because why they were done. He is an absolute shill, an absolute disingenuous liar for not addressing the fact that we, the gaming community, didn't necessarily have a problem with the removal of slot machines. We had a problem with all existing customers having to have their game changed after purchasing it in order to meet censorious restrictions in the Chinese market. Okay, it wasn't about slot machines. It was saying, hey, I didn't buy this game. I didn't agree to these changes. And you know what? If you want to get into the Chinese market, release a Chinese market only game. Don't change what I already bought and paid for. He goes on to say, it feels like every week we're reading headlines about players have outraged over X. Game Y gets review bombed, most often over something utterly trivial. Again, in his opinion, it's becoming tiresome. How much upset can be caused by a minute, or by minutia, but at least we could take solace in that the backlash was usually a vocal minority with demands that would ultimately never be met. Oh, are you talking about SJWs? Because they're a vocal minority, yet they seem to have no problem getting their demands met. Today, Ubisoft announced that it was reversing the aesthetic changes it had planned with Rainbow Six Siege. That is a win. Our community and players raised concerns, which, as you no doubt have guessed, is putting it mildly. Within a couple of days, these changes originally being announced, the game's Steam page was besieged by negative reviews bemoaning the decision. Even this week, a smattering of harsh ratings continue to be posted, motivated purely by this alteration. And what's wrong with that? I purchased a product. I did not purchase that product under the impression that it could continually change so that other people who haven't given you their money yet might give you their money. What was Ubisoft's heinous crime? Adjusting some minor visual elements and art assets to prepare Rainbow Six for the Chinese release. Again, this is disingenuous. I'm going to go ahead and give this reporter, journalist, the benefit of the doubt and think that he probably knows why consumers were actually mad, yet he is willfully misrepresenting us. Slot machines on a counter in one map were removed, sexually suggestive neon lit sign for a strip club was replaced, and blood spatter was replaced. Review bombers complained that their assets affect their enjoyment of their game. Again, you don't know that it doesn't, and that it taints their very memory of it. Now, granted, I have personally not played this particular iteration of Rainbow Six. Oh, okay, well, let's hear what your opinion is. But I fail to see how such minor aesthetic changes would have any impact whatsoever on the gameplay and therefore the actual experience of playing the game. That's right, because you're coming at this either disingenuously or completely disconnected. Nobody is really that upset that these small things were changing. That they're upset why they were changing. And the fact that you wrote this long article completely ignoring that fact shows exactly where your loyalties lie. I understand that for some, the bare wall where slot machines once stood might be a permanent visual reminder that this game was not solely developed for them. Entitled gamers much? And they are not the center of Ubisoft's universe. That there is a world with other people who would appreciate things that cater to them. But these lessons are hard learned, and we're better to learn them from the comfort of your favorite video game. It's not clear at this stage whether this means Ubisoft now has to make a Chinese-only version, but the spokesman told GameIndustry.biz this morning, China is a strategic market for Ubisoft, and it is our intent to bring the highest quality Rainbow Six Siege experience to the Chinese players. In terms of gameplay, community, and esports, same for as any other country. More details about our future plans for China will be announced in due time. Getting back to the original plan, yes, such modifications capitulated to the censorship of the Chinese government. Oh yeah, no big deal, right? As so many players nobly observed in their reviews. Again, he's writing this sarcastically. But honestly, how harmful is the removal of any of these trivial visual elements in a title where you still run around shooting people in the face? Was a neon stripper central to the vital message of the developers? Again, what this is here is minimizing, all right? It doesn't matter. That is what these shills will never understand. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. What it is this creates a super slippery slope, okay? Where, yeah, it starts as just a few assets in the game, but then it ends up changing major. You give them an inch, they take a mile. I think we've seen this happen in the game industry plenty of time. The problem is this reversal has given those review bombers a victory, and they'll no doubt see it as furthered an expectation and a precedent in the industry could have certainly done without. Because Ubisoft aren't the only ones facing such complaints. Pokémon Let's Go is also receiving countless negative user reviews over how easy the game is and how much it veers away from the series mechanics. In this instance, yes, the changes have been significant, but that is the very concept of the game. When Nintendo announced its earlier this year, it was clearly positioned the title as to onboard those drawn in by Pokemon Go phenomenon, the main franchise, while simultaneously confirming a core RPG for 2019 to please Pikachu's most avid fans. And I agree, Pokemon Let's Go is mind-numbingly easy. Now, I'm 35 years old. Look, the game's not for me. I play it right before I go to bed, but within 2 hours, I already regret purchasing it. It's just become a mindless grind fest, a time waster. They could have done a lot more. They could have had even a basic story. Now, it's entirely possible that these negative reviews stem from people who don't follow the game's media too closely, who were unaware of the difference between Let's Go and the core series. But even so, if Nintendo and the Pokemon Company capitulated to their cries, would eventually they stop trying to reach out for this new audience or fear of upsetting the established one? Yeah, that's not a problem at all. Ask Blizzard how that's going with their Diablo franchise when they publicly make it very clear that they're more interested in wooing new customers than pleasing the existing ones they have. Yeah, just churn over new customers for these glorious gold rush days that is apparently the Chinese market. Look, hit the Chinese market. Nobody cares, right? Make your easy-ass Pokemon games. That's fine, but you can't diminish somebody's own opinion of the game. Look, I bought the game. I thought it was too easy. Would I leave a negative review? Nah. Would I give the game probably a 5 out of 10 if I was going to review it? Yeah, 5 or 6, maybe 7. 7 if I go into it knowing how easy it is. If I go in hoping it's an actual Pokemon game, I could see how people would be very disappointed. It's boring, mindless grind work, and it's so disappointing. These are companies trying to build cross-generation franchise, developing games solely for people that calculate each critter's individual value. Does not serve this strategy. To an extent, you can understand why Ubisoft has opted to pander to the demands for an unchanged international version of Rainbow Six Siege. After all, we saw it hit Activision's shares took after it dared to announce a mobile version of Diablo at the... Interesting. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You are taking up for developers, and honestly, we're the customers. We don't care. We don't care. There are ways that you can handle this. What I would do, just a little old me, is if I was going to release a super easy new market game, I would make sure I have something to announce for my core audience, and that it also came out close to the same time, right? Nobody would have given two rips about Diablo Immortal if they also announced some Diablo expansion or some new version of Diablo 4 or something, right? But instead, they just say, screw you, and it would appear, existing franchise, we're worried about the Chinese gold rush, all right? Which is, again, fine, but if you choose to at least present the idea that you are far more interested in new customers than the ones that have already paid you money, this is called getting your comeuppance. We're allowed to give you our feedback. Are we supposed to just say, well, let's let them do their thing. I'm just going to sit back here and take whatever. Activision has taken steps to appease Diablo fans, but it will be more scraping the mobile version and stop chasing the Chinese pot of gold? Not a chance. Oh, scrapping. Sorry, the mobile version's not a chance. And herein lies the crux of it. Publishers, by all means, do your utmost to keep your fans happy and deliver the experience they would expect and want. They are, after all, the ones who put you where you are today. As so many irksome internet posts have claimed, right along, Company X doesn't care about the community and other such nonsense. They don't. What are we supposed to think as the consumer? What are we supposed to think as the consumer? Okay, if you have played Diablo for years, 3-4 years, buying all the expansions, putting money into the game, right? And instead of appearing that they're working on anything for you or even appeasing you a little bit, you get a game that is very clearly targeting new customers. Again, this will be fine with better planning. You can announce something that's for new customers, but you need to also remember your old customers. Remember, this is a core tenet of marketing, all right? It is way more expensive in most cases to get a new customer, all right, than it is to keep an existing one. Game publishers would do well to keep this core business tenet in mind. I hope you enjoyed today's video. We'll talk to you again real soon.